Welcome back, Nicolange's Comic Corner, Classic Less Known Classics. This is episode number 1577 and Doubleshot number 1471. Now, I'm discussing the one trade for The Outsiders, and I'm also going to be discussing the final 6 issues of a series, which, another one of those where I just cannot get the final trade for this one, for reasons. Alright. The first one is, and both these are digital, by the way, we have Batman and the Outsiders, Volume 2, which contain issues 14 to 23 and the second annual. There's a few different things going on here. Big thing is that Gabriel, aka Halo, she gets a ton of development in these issues. Meet her parents, takes absence from the team. We also have a thing where she apparently is trying to hook up with Geoforce. And then, of course, there's a woman named Denise, who is trying to get a scholarship. And here's the thing about it. The dean will offer to Denise if she sleeps with him. She's like, no thank you, slaps him, tears the scholarship. And when Byron himself finds out about this, he goes to try to kill the man. So, Halo flies over to Wayne Manor to go contact the Batman. Which, of course, there's typically no one on the team who could actually stop him at this point. So, who did you contact? Superman, of course. Yes. Superman. And so, Superman has his first ever meeting with Halo. And then he meets Geoforce for the first time. And they fight, and eventually he does calm down. And of course, I think eventually Denise just finally moves past him. We also have stuff going on with Metamorpho. He gets a big character arc in here. Yes, Metamorpho, a character who's not even created by Mike W. Burr. Oh no. His storyline relates to the Orb. Well, mostly the country it's from. Egypt anyways. There's at one point he becomes like an Egyptian. It's a really cool storyline involving Metamorpho. And he's like the only other character who gets like a good story arc for him. And for Halo, we get a chance to learn basically how our parents, who turns out she doesn't really remember them. Of course, these people think they're parents, but not really much dealt with there. And we actually dealt with her backstory in here, mostly. And then in issue 22, and the most interesting thing happened in this series. In issue 22, the Outsiders go, for the first time that I can think of, to the satellite. Yes, the original circular one that's basically a ball. Yeah. But here's something you could probably think is kind of weird. Oh yeah, there's also a storyline here involving Halo and Tobias Whale, an old enemy of Black Lightning. Now here it is. This particular Secret Sanctuary. The original one. Yes. Which made its debut when I believe was Denny O'Neil was on the book back in the early 70s. And the reason for this satellite's existence was because Joker discovered the base operations, the original base for the Justice League, in a quick 2-part story that also had Snapper Carr leave the series, disappear for a little while, and then eventually became a supporting character in the Superman books for a while. Now, why is the Sanctuary like this? The reason is it suffered an attack by Martians. I am not kidding about that. Yes. And it's because of this attack that the Justice League had to change. Basically, Aquaman had to change the roster to only permanent members. You had to dedicate your full time to the Justice League. So the team at the time was comprised of Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Vixen, Vibe, the second Commander Steel, who was the grandson of the original one. This, of course, was the 80s, so of course was the grandson. And this is referred to as just like Detroit era. Now, the way this book is written is that way Mike Deborah's Batman is apparently Batman was against the whole thing of having the satellite in the first place. Now, It's been a while since I've read the Justice League issues, the old, like, the original volume. It's been a while since I read the issues where they had the satellite pop up. Now, I loved reading those issues when I read them online, but never remember reading it where apparently Batman was against the idea of the satellite. To me, I think it's a cool concept, just like having a space station they based out of. And, excuse me, in the case of DC, okay, yeah, in the case of DC, aside from Justice League, I think maybe the only other team ever in the history of DC Comics who actually had a space station as the base operations is, I think it was possibly one of the Secret Sanctuaries. Now, some of the technology from this place was still active for a long period of time. Yes, the teleporter. Yes, they decided to incorporate it in the JLI era as a piece because it was a piece of technology that was. Now, I believe this was a piece of technology given just by Hawkman when he joined the roster. Yes, because they incorporated some technology from him because he's an alien, and normally humans do not develop teleportation technology. My only guess is the reason why DC decided to create the JLA, the Justice League teleporter, is because of Star Trek. That's pretty much the reason why for this. Heck, this is reminds you of the old teleportation they had in the original series. Yes, it probably was heavily inspired by it. And just by sheer coincidence that this was introduced in DC Comics right after the series wrapped up. Now you might be curious though about this. Has Marvel ever attempted to have a team of characters based on a space station? Well, in DC, aside from Justice League, the only team who actually has done this is Stormwatch and The Garden. The Garden was an organization that Midnight had worked for. But aside from these three teams, there is pretty much no other team in history of DC Comics who ever based out of a space station. Now, what about Marvel? Well, the Foundation had one. The Feature Foundation did, called the Foundation. Aside from them, there was no other team I could think of. No, not that I could think of, no. That, aside from that one, that we had any other team having a space station outer space. My only guess is because no Marvel writer ever thought of putting one up there. I mean, the X-Men never had one. Not that I can think of, no. Oh yeah, in case you might ask, but what about in the G.I. Joe TV show? Cobra had a space station. Yes, they did. I think it popped up a couple times in the G.I. Joe comic book by Larry Hama. But space stations are not something that tend to pop up a lot very much in Marvel. I mean, the first one I could think comes to mind is stuff pops up the pages of X-Men related to Phoenix. Like, for example, when they were celebrating the 100th issue, I was reading this not at the time, but later on, where they actually have a fight on a space station ran by Stephen Lang, a mutant bigot. And pretty much this place here looks barely habitable. So, look at Justice League, Batman probably doesn't know they're based on Earth now. First time since the 60s they are. Actually, first time since the start of the 70s. Where they're based out of a factory in Detroit. They're based out of that place for a year until the events of, I think it was I think Hank Henshaw, the third one, got in the fight with his grandfather, beat the living crap out of the guy. And then they decided to move to the old Secret Sanctuary, which they remained up until the relaunch in 1987. But in the case of this particular thing, they are here to look at a device. And the outsiders have never been here before. Nope, they never have. So they use the device to basically kind of help Halo with memory, where they reveal that she's an alien. Not like a illegal alien per se. Basically an alien from another planet. And they explain she's also kind of immortal, take the body of a woman. And then she just flies off at the end of issue 23. Yep. And that concept sets up something that will pretty much help being explored in volume 3. But I gotta say, this was good. I personally loved it. I thought it was a really good book. And to recommend it, give the book a 10 out of 10. It's a pure classic book. Yes, and that's one thing about DC people tend to not think of. What's usually the first team people think of? The Justice League, or the JSA, or the Teen Titans. Do people have a discussion about the Outsiders? A group that's around since the 80s. A group I personally love. Nope, no one does. Alright, yes, I do love the Justice League and all the classic stuff related to them, and I have nothing against the modern stuff, but I love the classic stuff when it comes to Justice League. But speaking of the Justice League, we're going to be discussing the last 6 issues of Justice League United. Yep. Now, this is the era written by Jeff Parker. An era that I'm not really a big fan of. One of the primary reasons why is that 3 of the members who are prominent fixtures in this book when Jeff Lemire wrote the book are dropped for no reason. Well, the 3 members that are dropped here are Martian Manhunter, the leader of the team. Yeah, he's dropped from the team. Well, he got his own solo book, but in the book there's no explanation of why the abrupt change. Not really, no. They, of course, tease us in a sneak peek. We're like, oh, we're going to have all these people join the Justice League United for, a mission, and then they're done. Who else is dropping the team? Green Arrow and Supergirl. That's not a joke. They seriously are dropped from the team. Green Arrow, well, was still publishing at this point, but there's no explanation of why he was dropped from the team. At least he still had a book publishing at this point. But Supergirl, yeah, this was a big mistake on the part of the writer to drop her from the book. Well, here's the thing. Her book just ended just prior to the start of this run. Yeah, DC ended the book. I still don't know what was the reason for it. So, in this particular... Now, there are 2 story arcs plus 1 standalone issue. Excuse me. Now, you have Chad Reformer, who does issues 11, 12, and 16. First up, we have a 2-parter. Where the Justice League United, which is comprised of Stargirl, Animal-Man, Maphobin, who was a new character created for this book, Animal-Man, pretty much all the members are part of the Jeff Lemire roster, minus 3 people, are still here. And they recruit 4 new characters to join the roster to replace the 3 that were dropped from the team. What I still think was dropped for stupid reasons, or for no reason at all. And who did Jeff Parker recruit to this roster? The first person instead of recruits is Mira. Have Animal-Man go recruit her. Now, I get why Mira is basically the first chosen. Because, and there's a very good reason for this, because that was the previous book that Jeff Parker wrote, the Aquaman book. He wrote that just before doing this. And then it includes Swamp Thing. Now, Swamp Thing had actually made a guest appearance in the pages of Aquaman, so at least had experience in writing him. There was recruitment of 2 other people part of this team, Jason Blood and Poison Ivy. Yep. Now, the reason why that Amir was joined part of this roster was so that they could help her look for frickin' Aquaman. Yeah, this is going on the Cullen Bunn run. Now, let me show off what the heck the Etrigan looked like in this period of time. There he is. Wait, what happened to the classic Jack Kirby suit? Well, there is an explanation for this. This is the outfit he was wearing in the Demon Knight series, where he was the star of it. I have read it. It's actually a pretty good book. That got canceled after 23 issues. Why? 2 words can explain the reason for it. Low sales. Yep, low sales. I don't know how terrible the sales were, but I've heard that was the reason why the book got canceled. And the reason why these 4 people are here deal with the strange monstrosities, the 2-part called I Will Never Return. It's an okay story. I love the characters are here. The artwork is still pretty good. Also, Adam Strange not here, But at least there's an explanation why he's not here, because that's not even related to Jeff Lemire. So that's the only thing that they actually bother to have an explanation. That there's kind of a reason why he's on Ran. Because they had this thing where, similar to what they did with Adam Strange back in the 50s, where a lot of the time he gets near Alina, he gets teleported away. And that was the thing with him. It's basically the effect of the Zeta Beam. Now, there was a theory, I think, in the 2000s of the reason why they kept basically, keep activating. And Adam Strange thought it was his father-in-law who was doing it in order to keep him away from his daughter. Though they end up getting married and have a beautiful daughter out of it. Yep. Yeah, this two-parter is okay, which does result in the apparent death of Swamp Thing. Yep. Also, Batgirl does pop up briefly in this issue, and she is there just to have her part of the team in the very next three-parter. Yes, a three-parter, which the artwork is much improved. It's by Paul Politer, and the people that recruit this roster, they recruit a few new members. They recruit Batgirl, Steel, yes, Steel from Superman, along with Robot Man from Doom Patrol, and Vandal Savage. The reason why they recruited is because this one town is stuck in a bit of a time displacement thing, where we have guest appearances by various characters from World War II. People like G.I. Robot, Easy Company, Sergeant Rock. The G.I. Zombie is here. Yes, the G.I. Zombie, who is a recent character. Let's see. We have Enemy Ace, who I think this story was the only time he popped up in DC Comics post-Flashpoint. Heck, get this. We even have a guest star appearance by another character who had just previously appeared in another book prior to this. Like, I think this was at the time this issue came out. I think this was the first time in about a year he popped up. We return freaking OMAC in these issues. Yes, OMAC is here. And you're saying, OMAC? What the heck is he doing here? Well, he does explain he fell through a portal. Ended up here. Yeah, that happened in... And this is not a joke. That happened in Suicide Squad Volume 429. Yeah, it was by far one of the most strangest things. Yeah. We even have the Creature Commandos pop up here. Like, it is so awesome. And we have Stargirl having a great interaction with Enemy Ace. Where she's like, oh, you're German. Like, oh, don't worry, I won't attack you on the ground. My battlefield is the sky, not the ground. Which, that plays great into the guy's character, because that is key. Now, if anybody's ever read any Enemy Ace stories, I've read a little bit of stories to the comics, the guy is a man of honor. He basically would only do his fighting in the sky. There's also this really interesting story where he was basically having an air duel with an enemy, and he won, and like basically he still kept the fight up, despite the fact he ran out of ammo. Yeah, he ran out of ammo, so he continued fighting. Yes, he did. Which you're probably thinking, that's weird. Why would he do that for? Don't know the reason for it, but that's pretty much the way it is when it comes to him. Yeah, but he is a cool character. But this, I kind of felt this though Jed Parker was doing his own love letter to classic World War II characters, and of course to Enemy Ace. And he probably threw in G.I. Zombie, because even though yes, he is a recent character, he's not like some of these other characters around from like since the 70s, like Sergeant Rock, G.I. Robot, Easy Company, the Creature Commando, which I have read their early appearance. I actually own the book that collects their classic appearances from the 70s and 80s, which is really good stuff, by the way. But this part of this Warzone story is really good. Like, wow. I would highly recommend checking this out, this 3-part Warzone story, which does wrap up with issue number 15. Yep. By the way, Tony Harris is the cover artist for this entire run. Yes. And as for the final issue of this run, which has the Justice United disband. Yep, they disband. The reason book? Never explained. I'm not kidding about that. There was no explained reason for this disbandment. Yeah, pretty much Jeff Parker probably heard that the book was going to X anyways. They figured, okay, why don't I have my final issue wrap up a loose end that Jeff Lemire didn't wrap up? The whole thing with the Zeta Beam and Adam Strange. And he did. Yep. Eventually, Zeta Beam got fixed. And for the first time since Jeff Lemire's on, we finally have a guest appearance by Adam Strange. I kind of wish Tony Harris was the interior artist. Now, I have nothing against Sheriff Foreman. I like his artwork. But, man, the way he draws Adam Strange, like this is how he draws Alina. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, he draws her to be way too skinny. And makes Adam Strange, a guy who is not this, he's not normally like this, makes him also like a football player for some strange reason. But this is a really good told story. And you could say it's the best issue of his whole run. Could say yes. Now, it's a good story, and I do like the fact we do wrap up the whole story out here. Now, is this the last time we see Justice United? Yes, they would pop up in flashback in an issue of Death of Hawkman, which came I think it was just a couple years after this. And I think they also popped up for a couple issues of Convergence. Yes, in cameos. Which came out just prior to this. Yeah, so basically before these issues came out, we had a couple guest star appearances of Justice United in the pages of Convergence, and we also had them appear in the pages of Axe Comics for a quick cameo. But since this book ended, they have not really appeared at all. They pretty much have been disbanded. Now, I like the whole idea of Justice United, and here's something also. There was a few other things. There was one thing I didn't like about the run, aside from the drop of 3 characters. Their base, they stopped using it in this run for no explained reason. Yeah, for some reason they decided to go to the House of Secrets in the final issue. Yes. Now, yeah, they're based out of Canada, which, yes, this was indeed true. They're based out of Canada. But they actually had sort of a proper base for the Justice League United team, starting with issue number, I think it was 5, I think it was. Yeah, they actually had an actual base. Yes. And then apparently when Jeff Parker took over the book, had to abruptly change what the book was doing and just do this. It is by far, I didn't like the direction the book was going. Not really, no. Yeah. I mean, we had the sneak peek of the group, which was told in an issue of printed one of the Convergence books. But that mostly would just set up for this. But in the book, there's no explanation of why 3 of the team's most prominent characters are dropped from the roster. Adam Strange is there, but he's not a regular part of the roster. Yes. Now, as for why in the world these characters were dropped, don't know. The book was just a continuation of Just Like America. It was meant to be its replacement, which I like that fact of it. And I love that's the Jeff Lemire run was just so good. The Parker run, I'm not sure why they went this direction, but they could just continue what they were doing before. Nope. Yeah, do the space opera stuff. No, let's just basically do small scale stuff in one area. Okay. At least the final issue actually felt like something out of Jeff Lemire's run. Now, I had nothing against Jeff Parker's writing. No. I didn't like what he did with this book. That's just the issue. I'm going to give these issues, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. But the only story I felt was weak was the first 2-parter. that story was the weakest thing that he did for the book. He had a weak start, but a good ending for this book. Yep. So yeah, that's a particular view, and that's gonna be it for videos today. So stay tuned for tomorrow for my review of Case Closed and Potential Now Comic Corner. Okay, it's next video. Bye.